Welcome, everyone, to our American Public Health Association session number 3147, Data Resources to Measure the Risks of Abuse Among Elder Populations by the National Archive of Computerized Data on Aging. I'm Catherine Lavender, the NACDA Data Project Manager, and I will be narrating this presentation. Thank you for listening. This presentation is going to focus on data resources you can obtain from our website. The data resources will be focused on elder abuse, and with this in mind, we wanted to provide some context about elder abuse as a social issue. Understanding the context will help you frame your research questions, which will in turn help you when you are thinking about search terms and looking to find data on that terminology. Historically, protections for the elderly and social perceptions of elderly abuse were fairly minimal. A review of the literature from 1940 through 1969 focusing on elderly abuse or elderly neglect find little to no articles that directly address domestic violence or misuse of the aging population. Workhouses and the ongoing care limitations reflected in state and privately run nursing homes reflect past and some present European attitudes towards elderly care. The topics of elderly abandonment, abuse, and mistreatment were largely ignored in the research literature until the late 1960s with works such as Kimball, 1969, and Gavin and Berger, 1968. The 1971 publication of Old Age, The Last Segregation by Claire Townsend and Ralph Nader represented one of the first in-depth looks at poverty and mistreatment of the elderly in the United States. This presentation reflects how thoroughly those outdated perceptions have been replaced with growing and compelling research on the needs of underserved elders. We review some of new and valuable data available through NACDA and ICPSR to support research on this important topic. What is elder abuse? It's important to define elder abuse so that you understand the terminology, again, which will play into the search terms you use to obtain data on elder abuse. NACDA is funded by the National Institute on Aging. Therefore, we sought the definition on elder abuse from the National Institute on Aging. And according to NIA, there are many types of elder abuse. Emotional abuse, also known as psychological abuse, which can include saying hurtful words, yelling, threatening, or repeatedly ignoring the older adult. Neglect occurs when the caregiver does not try to respond to the older adult's needs. Abandonment is leaving a senior alone without planning for his or her care. Sexual abuse involves a caregiver forcing an older adult to watch or be part of sexual acts. Financial abuse happens when money or belongings are stolen from an older adult. It also includes changing names on a will, life insurance policy, or other items without permission from the older adult. Financial abuse may also include financial neglect and financial exploitation. To find out more, you can visit the National Institute on Aging's site. We have hyperlinked that site in this slide. And we've also provided some other resources from the National Institutes of Health. There's various workshops available, so we provided a link to one, as well as the World Health Organization details on elder abuse, and a link to the National Center on Elder Abuse. So now that we've talked a little bit about how research on elder abuse has evolved and the terminology, the definitions on elder abuse, we're going to talk about how to discover data resources on elder abuse from the ICPSR website. So you'll want to start searching from the ICPSR website, icpsr.umich.edu. There's a hyperlink in this slide. When you're searching from the ICPSR site, this allows you to view results from all of the ICPSR archives, including federally funded archives like NACDA and the National Archive of Criminal Justice Data, NACJD. To the right of this slide, you'll see a chart discovering data on elder abuse, searching the ICPSR website. I've listed different search terms along with the corresponding number of studies, number of variables, and number of related publications that are displayed on our site when you search for these terms. You'll notice in my search term column, I have quotation marks around my search terms. We recommend using quotations around multi-word search terms. So elder abuse, use the quotations around elder abuse. When you're searching for different terms related to the same search, such as neglect, comma, elder, you'll want to put quotation marks around each word. Some search combinations will work better than others. You can see that there are over 400 studies that result from a search on our site for elder abuse. For neglect, comma, elder, there are more than 1,400 study results. With this in mind, and thinking that this is a lot of information to go through, I encourage you to inspect and compare the variable results. This search method gives you an in-depth look into what was being measured, and you can note the variety of ways respondents are asked about abuse at the variable level. So you can see for the elder abuse search term, there are more than 220 variables. And for neglect, comma, elder, there are more than 250 variables. But it's much easier to look through a couple hundred variable results rather than hundreds to over 1,000 study results. Another search approach would be to review the data-related publications. Searching this way allows you to see what other researchers hypothesized as well as which studies they used to find answers to their research questions. I have an image below. This is a screenshot of a related publication from the ICPSR site when searching for elder abuse. The article that's displayed is from 2017 and is titled Elder Mistreatment Predicts Later Physical and Psychological Health, Results from a National Longitudinal Study. You can see that there are links to the source as well as links to the data which were used for that article. This particular article used data from the National Social Life Health and Aging Project, NSHAP, and there are links directly to those study pages. The study search results are the default, but you can search by the variables or by the related publications and lead yourself to a study that will help you answer your research question. When you find studies that you may want to use, you'll want to note the study DOI. This is what we recommend using to cite the data. Thinking about searching across the variable results, I want to talk a little bit about common data elements across elder abuse related survey questions. When you're searching across various studies on our site, looking for related topics, you'll notice the exact questions will likely differ. I have an example in this slide which demonstrates how different the questions might be across the studies, yet they're attempting to measure the same idea. The respondent age groups are relatively the same, as well as the geographic representation. So both of these studies that are listed here would be good resources for data on elder abuse, but finding them might take different approaches. The National Social Life Health and Aging Project, NSHAP, respondents were asked, is there anyone who has taken your money or belongings without your okay or prevented you from getting them even when you ask? The National Elder Mistreatment Study 5-year follow-up respondents were asked, over the past year, has a family member, friend, or stranger stolen your money or taken your things for themselves, their friends, or to sell? Both of these questions ask about the respondent's money being taken. Both, again, have samples of elderly respondents, and both are U.S. national represented populations. But the term financial abuse isn't present in this variable level information. So, to find these, you might search for taken or money or some other kind of indicator of financial abuse. Another example in this chart from NSHAP, is there anyone who hits, kicks, slaps, pushes, or throws things at you? The corresponding question in the National Elder Mistreatment Study is, since you were age 60, has anyone physically hurt you so that you suffered some degree of injury, including cuts, bruises, or other marks? Again, both of these questions attempt to measure the same idea, the respondent's experience with physical abuse. But physical abuse, that term, is not present in this question or in the variable level information. So you might search for hurt or physical or hit, You basically want to be creative in your approach. Think about the terminology that's used to define the type of elder abuse and use that to identify variables within a data collection that you might be interested in downloading. Our last slide illustrates ICPSR elder abuse data resources. This chart represents just a fraction of these related studies ICPSR disseminates. But as you can see, these studies have many of the topics, variables from many of the topics that we discussed today. What I've listed is the study title and the DOI, which again is the best way to cite the data. I've listed a little bit of information about the respondent universe or sample to indicate that these are related samples, related age groups, related geographic coverage. And then what I've done is I've chosen topics: physical abuse, emotional verbal abuse, sexual abuse, and financial abuse. And I searched each of these studies at the variable level to identify whether or not they had variables in the data related to these topics. And again, these particular studies, they cover almost all of the topics that are listed here, and they're just a glimpse into what we have to offer. ICPSR, which NACDA is a part of, as well as NACJD, the Criminal Justice Archive, for which a lot of these data belong to or are hosted by. ICPSR is free data and easy access to downloading, and we encourage you to discover more by visiting icpsr.umich.edu or nacda-aging.org. Again, that's nacda-aging.org to find out more. And good luck.